Back again in Copenhagen, and this time again Torsten has been coming up with a question about qualities that will help you to become successful as a pilot. So he has asked quite a lot of questions about the physiological traits, what you need to be good at in school, physical, and also mentally. So I'm really excited to start trying to answer this question, because that's actually quite a lot. And I'll tell you a little story, very, very short. I was picking up a plane in Seattle, a Boeing plane, and I was invited to the Museum of Flight, and I saw this poster back from sort of Second World War time, where they were looking for military pilots, and they actually described the kind of profile, the kind of pilot they were looking for. And I think actually, if we can have it up on the screen, I think this description of a pilot is still true, even for commercial pilots. If you're really arrogant, if you're really smart, if you're cocky and everything, I don't think those are very good personality traits to become a pilot. And then in terms of school, we get asked this question quite a lot. What kind of subjects are good to be good at, and what should I pick if you can decide? And I think that the most important thing is English.
Yes, I agree. The first and foremost, practice your English. Talk a lot, read a lot, listen a lot, because it will help you get through your pilot training, and then of course when you're working as a commercial pilot.
I think what you need to realize is that regardless of which country you take it in, I think the material you have to go through will be in English. The agreed sort of common language in aviation is English, and most likely that will be the language you will communicate when you're working. Bear in mind that there will be a day where you also need to present yourself to an employer, and so you also need to be able to sell yourself in English, most likely one day. So it can be really, really good. The other thing I would say is math, and probably need to just clarify a little bit what I mean. It's more like it's not like you need to be a scientist at scientist level or anything. You should just need to have a sort of basic understanding of numbers, be good at numbers, because when you become a pilot, you would be starting using electronics quite a lot. And we have this saying, shit in, shit out. So basically, a lot of the time, it's about having something which is called mental debt reckoning, or short MDR. And it's just to have a sense or flair for numbers. Can this be right? Can what the computer is showing me now, does that kind of make sense? So it's not like you are required to make ultra complicated calculations, but just by having a little bit of a sense for numbers, it might save you one day, and it is required to constantly check the computers.
And I think when I have been doing my PPL, I have always been fond of math, and it's quite easy for me, so that would have been helping a lot during my PPL. But I would also add something, physics. If you have general understanding of physics, it will be a lot easier to study those books.
And really, I don't think it's a must or anything, but I just think a little bit of awareness of what's up and down in the world and everything. So geography, just have a little bit of an understanding for countries of the world. Physical requirements or physical restrictions about becoming a pilot. I think the way I would describe it is that when you decide to become a pilot, you need to go to what's called an initial health check. And the requirements to get your medical certificate when you start your career and go for that initial check, they're quite high. Of course, pilots, like everybody else, when we get older, we just start hearing a little bit worse, your sight might go off, and you develop all kinds of illnesses. There are some things you can fly with, and sometimes disease is not something you can fly with. But of course, your ears, your eyes, they deteriorate naturally with age, and that's okay. But if your starting point is weak, they can sort of predict that with age it gets outside the limits, and then you'll start going into trouble.
Okay, I would maybe talk about also height. In general, if you become a pilot, the schools generally don't have restrictions unless they have certain type of planes. So you need to be able to touch the rudders, the yoke, and everything. You need to be able to reach. And I think that also carries on when you become a commercial pilot. You need to be able to reach everything. So unfortunately, if you are like, let's say 1 meter tall, your likelihood of becoming a commercial pilot are lower, because that's just a safety thing. And a lot of things even as a cabin crew, you just need to be able to reach things. So there is no like set height.
I wouldn't, off the top of my head, I wouldn't be able to say exactly where the limit is, but I think anything sort of close to maybe 1.50 m or significantly above 2 meters, you start getting into trouble. And it's more like if you are a really tall person or short person, it's not so much about getting the license, it's more getting employment at an operator later on, because they might have height requirements.
How about weight?
Weight, well, I don't think there is actually any lower weight or any higher weight. However, there is a restriction that when you sit on a flight deck, you are supposed to be able to, have to be able to close the harness. And you might remember from the cabin where you can get like extension seat belts. Now that doesn't exist out in the front. We have to be able to fit inside the harness and or the seat belt at the flight deck. So that will put a natural limit to your weight. I don't know exactly how heavy you could be. I think some pilots weigh more than 100 kilos. But
well, I guess it depends on how much beer you have been drinking. So how far your belly's coming up.
Yeah.
So in general, I would say you need to be generally healthy.
Yeah.
Your vision needs to be generally good, or when it's fixed, it needs to be good. Hearing, once again, general.
What?
Exactly. I would hope it'd be like in the range of normal.
Yeah.
Oh, there's one thing that you need to be physically able to do.
Oh yeah, a lot of people don't know this, but you actually need to do a wet drill, and a wet drill involves going in a swimming pool and demonstrating that you are able to swim. So this is not something you will do during your initial pilot training. When you go to the flying school, they will not test your abilities, but when you go to an operator, there is a little swimming test. It's not very difficult, but if you can't swim at all, you're not going to pass.
Yeah, it's 200 meters, most of the airlines.
Yeah.
Then how about psychological and cognitive?
Well, unfortunately, I think whenever you now mention the word psychological and aviation, everybody sadly thinks about the German wings accident where unfortunately a pilot decided to voluntarily fly a plane into the terrain. So of course there's a lot of focus on psychological things. I think I can summarize it with saying you need to be mentally stable.
Yeah, but I would also, if I go more like the cognitive and the personality type of things, I would say as a pilot you need to be able to learn and unlearn and implement. So this means
That's a really
that
good point.
we get so many notices even as a cabin crew on daily basis. So the company just informed this has been now changed in the manual. So suddenly we need to unlearn the old thing, learn the new thing, and implement it immediately.
Yeah.
So this is a skill that I hope all the pilots have, and that's something that maybe as a student pilot you can also start learning, because it will help you in the long run.
Yeah, and it's actually more difficult than you think.
Yeah.
And we have, for instance, through my career, I have been working for different airlines, and sometimes when you do what's called an aborted takeoff, so a reject, in some airlines I've had to say stop, in other airlines I would say reject. And does it matter at the end of the day? No. Whether you say stop or reject to your colleague, I'm sure they will get the message. But it's just about, you have a point that things, call outs, procedures might change, or they will change all the time.
They change all
and
the time.
it's about being able to let go of what you used to do and do it the new way, and don't just hang on to the old, this is how I have done it. Again, a bad pilot would do that. A good pilot will, of course, fly the airplane as the manual says.
And I would say one trait would be patience.
Absolutely.
In aviation, you just need to learn to be patient.
Yeah. And I think actually over the years, it's also, I have learned that it's not the performance of the single pilot, it's performance of the whole team. It goes with the cabin crew, it goes with the two pilots in the front. That is all about getting the most out of people on the day in a safe way. Because if you don't manage your cabin crew, there's likely to be distractions from the cabin crew. And if you don't manage your colleague and you get sort of a really good atmosphere where you're helping out each other, you might make more mistakes that the other one doesn't really spot. So it's all about trying to create a feeling of working together.
Yes, and I would also say one of them is situational awareness.
Yeah.
So you are more aware what's going around you, behind you, in front of you. And one thing that I would say is one of the most important traits of a pilot: communication.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And I think on the lines of communication, you could also say, yeah, speaking up when you have made mistake, or speaking up when you feel uncomfortable, raising uncertainty,
Yes.
everything.
And I would also say that your communication needs to be really clear and precise.
Absolutely.
Because once again, on the flight deck, there might be multiple different nationalities working together on a plane.
Yeah.
So some people might understand words differently. So your communication always needs to be really clear and precise, so it's easy to understand.
Absolutely. So there you go, Torsten. I do hope that you enjoyed the answers we had to you. If you sit out there with some dying questions, just as Torsten did, just drop us an email, and we will then try and answer your questions the best we can.
By the way, remember to like, comment and subscribe to our channel, or if you want to support our channel, and send the questions at askapilot.net.
Absolutely. Until next time, happy landings.
Bye.
Bye.